A good looking, cheap scrambler bike which can also do a little bit of off-road. I think we found one. My name is Dennis and welcome to the review of the Royal Enfield Scram 411 or the Baby Himalayan. So today we're going to talk about the Royal Enfield Scram 411. I've been riding this bike for a couple of hours now, and after my first impressions I'm ready for a full review. So today we're going to talk about a few main things. We're going to talk about handling, the engine, the price of this bike, why you should buy it, and the overall looks of this bike. So let's dive in. Okay, first off, the first thing I noticed when hopping on the bike was the wide handlebar of this bike. The plus of the wide handlebar is that it's easily manageable in slow turns, short turns and short corners. I think this bike is perfect for city riding. So rideability, handling, it's okay. Don't expect any miracles. Don't expect you can go on the track with this bike, but just a really easy, fun bike to ride on a daily basis. Okay. Let's talk about the engine. This bike has a 411cc engine, which is air-cooled. It's a single-cylinder engine. It produces around 24 horsepower and around 30 Nm of torque. I think that's enough considering the weight of this bike. This bike weighs around 185 kilograms wet. So pretty light bike, and yeah, it's not the most powerful bike in the world, but for easy riding, I think it's okay, and for beginner riders, it's a perfect match. So the engine, if I'm honest, it's pretty boring, but I think that's the plus side of this bike because it's so simple. It's a simple bike. It's a fun bike to ride, but it's also reliable. Probably I would rather go around the world on this bike than on for example, a really expensive Ducati Multistrada or something like that. Here in Europe, we have 3 sets of licenses. We have A1, A2 and the full A license. And this bike is a bit weird because it falls between A1 and A2. So it's too powerful for A1, but just a little bit. It's around 5 kilowatts too powerful for an A1 bike, and it's a lot less powerful for an A2 bike. So yeah, it falls a little bit in between. It's not a good thing for this bike, but yeah, for the beginner rider who doesn't want to go fast, it's perfect. Also a plus, when you're traveling on this bike, I'm absolutely sure that almost every mechanic can work on this bike because they're that simple. So talking about the brakes, it has bi-brake brakes. I think bi-brake is part of Brembo, so the brakes are pretty fine. It has dual channel ABS, so also really safe. And don't expect any miracles of the brakes, but they do their job. And together with the suspension, which is non-adjustable, it's fine. It's okay. Okay, in terms of tech, it doesn't have any fancy LED lights. It does have the tripper navigation, a normal speedometer with a little tachometer and gear indicator and a fuel range indicator, and that's about it. I think you don't need more on this type of bike. Let's talk about looks. In my opinion, I think the looks are the best thing of this bike. I think they really succeeded with making a modern bike and also a bit with a classic touch, looking very good. They use pretty good quality stuff like a steel or aluminum tank. The frame is good inside, and I really like the side panels on this side, and I really like the side panels on this side. I think they have a lot of colors, and you have also a lot of customization possibilities on this bike. I do think that in terms of build quality, it could be better because I do see some rust on this bike, and this bike has around 2,500 kilometers, so I think that's a little bit too early. But what can you expect of the price? This bike is really economical. You can do around 100 kilometers every 3.8 liters of fuel. The fuel tank has around 15 liters of capacity, of which 5 liters are its reserve, and I think it's more than enough for this kind of bike. Okay, in terms of price, because I think this is one of the best things about this bike, and that's the price. This bike is around 6,600 euros here in the Netherlands, and maybe you're thinking, okay, that's pretty expensive, especially compared to, let's say, India, for example. But you need to remember that the bikes in the Netherlands are pretty expensive. So what you can buy normally for 6,600 euros is not a lot. So a normal bike here in the Netherlands starts around 7 or 8 or 9. It depends on what bike you're buying, but 6,600 euros is pretty cheap. So yeah, good thing. So in terms of comfort, if you're sitting on the bike and riding like this, I'm around 186 meters, and for me the bike is pretty comfortable because of the wide handlebar, the good seating position. It's nice, but this bike is also marketed as an off-road bike, so you can do a little bit of off-road with this bike, but when standing up, your legs are pushed to the side because of these side panels. And you can imagine if you're wearing off-road boots, they're even bigger than my tiny little leg. So if you're wearing those boots, your leg is too much on the outside and it doesn't help with the feel of the bike. And I do think that you need to adapt something to ride this bike comfortably off-road. So my final thoughts. I think for this money it's a pretty good bike. As a beginner rider you can get a really complete bike for around 6,600 euros. It's not too intimidating, it's easy to ride, it's a fun city bike, but I think that's about it. So don't expect any miracles, but considering the price you get a really complete package. Yeah, if you're a beginning rider and you want a scrambler look, I would highly recommend to check this bike out. If you're in the Netherlands, you can check this bike out at Axels Bike Shop. Really good shop, Royal Enfield dealer. They have a lot of other motorcycles and they can also offer some customization on this bike. So yeah, and so give them a visit if you're in the neighborhood. So if you like this video, please consider to give a like. And if you want to see any more of this kind of content, consider to subscribe. And hopefully I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Goodbye. And of course, I'm wearing my helmet. Nip nip.